Hi class, in this lecture we're going to talk about the most important aspects of resumes, and this should help you with your resume assignment. You probably already have a resume, so this lecture will just help you fine-tune it a little bit and will give you an idea of what I, as an instructor and as kind of a resume expert, having been a professional resume writer, will be looking for in your assignment. I use the acronym FAKTSA, F-A-K-T-S-A, to stand for the most important aspects of resumes. So F stands for focus, A stands for accomplishments, K stands for keywords, a little cheat with T and S, transferable skills, and the second A stands for appearance. And I'll be going through each of those individually as we go on. But if you want to remember the things that I'm most interested in with a resume, just think of FAKTSA. Again, F stands for focus, and that means that your resume should be very sharply focused to the job you're applying for. It used to be a number of years ago that resumes were kind of one size fits all, and you used the same resume for every job you applied for. Now, you can use a basic boilerplate resume that you don't make vast major changes in, but you really do need to tweak it at least a little bit for every job you apply for, because the important thing is the employer is able to discern immediately upon seeing the resume what job you are applying for and what your strongest selling points are. So you want to make sure that that jumps out at the reader immediately when he or she sees your resume. So how do you focus your resume? How do you add focus to a resume? Well, there are a number of ways, and most of them have to do with the very top of your resume, because that's the first thing the reader is going to see. You can use a headline. A headline is kind of the current substitute for what used to be called the objective statement. Objective statements are out of fashion with employers. They don't like them. They don't really want to read them. But a headline is very sharp and to the point, and I'll show you an example in a couple minutes. Another way is a branding statement. Another way is a combination of the headline with the branding statement. Another technique is a profile, and or also called a qualification summary section. I'll show you an example of that. Keywords. Keywords can be gathered together at the top of your resume, or they can be spread out throughout your resume, or ideally both. And I'll show you at least one example of that. And then finally, you can add focus within your accomplishments, which of course is another one of the aspects of FAKTSA. Here's an example of a headline, and in this particular headline we have single words that are kind of related. These would almost be considered keywords in themselves, but a reader looking at that set of words would know exactly what the strongest selling points of this job seeker are, and that headline appears very prominently and nicely designed right up at the top of the resume. Another possibility is a branding statement, and a branding statement is a pithy statement that kind of captures your essence, kind of captures your top selling points, describes who you are, what you have to offer the employer, what your promise, your brand promise is to the employer. So here's an example of a branding statement: a highly motivated, experienced professional with skills in marketing, e-commerce, relationship building, promotion, and management. So that kind of captures the top selling points of this job seeker. Another thing you can do, and I definitely recommend it, is use both a headline and a branding statement. And this particular example really has a lot going for it. It has a nice graphic treatment of the job seeker's name, which is very prominent, very large type, which looks very confident. And then it almost has two branding statements. It's kind of a little tagline plus a branding statement down below. So you have a headline that says sales executive that tells the reader exactly what job he's going for, and then one branding statement that says well positioned to establish and cultivate profitable, long-lasting relationships with key clients while increasing sales efficiency for your company. So that tells right there what he can do for the employer. It's a very strong sales-oriented statement. And then he also has this kind of little tagline, securing large-scale customer relationships and increasing organizational efficiencies. So that's a very nice package there, all grouped together. And yet another possibility for adding focus to your resume is with a qualification summary or profile. Now, these sections were extremely popular a few years ago. Uh, Today, they are, a lot of employers say they don't really read them. They consider them to be kind of unsubstantiated fluff. But I still recommend a fairly short professional profile, maybe no more than about 3 bullet points, because it can contain keywords. And it's really important to have a lot of keywords in your resume, as we'll discuss. But a professional profile or qualification summary would contain a few bullet points that again sum up your top selling points, contain a lot of keywords, maybe sum up some accomplishments, just a really strong salesy little chunk of your resume. Now I want to talk about keywords as a way to sharpen the focus of your resume, but we're also going to talk about keywords later as their own category because they're extremely important, and I'll talk a little bit later about why they're so important. But as I mentioned, you can have a separate section of keywords on your resume. These would be mostly nouns that describe your key skills areas, your areas of expertise, your competencies, your proficiencies. But it works best if you not only have a section of keywords like this, but also have these keywords integrated into the rest of your resume. That works the best with employer software. So I recommend doing both if you possibly can. So again, I want to talk about accomplishments as a way to add focus, but we're later on going to talk about accomplishments as their own category. And at that point, I'll talk about why accomplishments are so important. But a way to use accomplishments to add focus is by choosing accomplishments that target the job that you're applying for. So if you have a whole array of accomplishments to choose from, pick the ones that are most relevant to the job you're targeting. And now, in fact, we move on to the category of accomplishments. Accomplishments are extremely important on a resume because employers want to know what results you've had, what you've accomplished, what you've achieved, how you've gone above and beyond in your jobs. Employers are really not interested in your duties and responsibilities. They know pretty much what the duties and responsibilities are for a given job. And they want to know how you've done more than that, how you went above and beyond, how you took initiative, how you made the job your own. So I never like to see phrases like duties included, responsibilities included, responsible for, or anything like that. You really want to make your resume completely accomplishments driven. Now, I want to tell you kind of a little story-based way to express your accomplishments on a resume. And you have probably heard of the technique of telling accomplishments in terms of situation, action, and result. But I want to suggest to you that on a resume, you need to do it the opposite way because you need the result to really jump out and be the first thing the employer sees. So when you describe a accomplishment on a resume, I want to see it in terms of result, action, situation. And sometimes because language is so condensed and concise in a resume, you don't even really have an opportunity to talk about the situation. But the most important thing is to have that result at the beginning of your bullet point so that that jumps right out at the reader. And now we get to the separate category of keywords. And in recent years, probably since about the turn of the 21st century, keywords have become one of the most important aspects of resumes. And it all has to do with the software that employers use to select resumes. It's called applicant tracking software. Applicant tracking software basically looks for certain keywords designated by the employer in your resume and picks out the resumes that have the best, the optimal combination of keywords that the employer has specified. And those are the resumes that are picked out to be actually read by human eyes, because a lot of times they're just put right into the system and never even read until they're narrowed down to a few. You can see in this infographic here that the number that would actually be reviewed by a hiring manager is about 25 out of 1,000 that are picked out for their keywords. So it's not very many, and it's very difficult to know exactly which keywords are going to be used and to predict those. So it's a very tricky business. So how do you know which keywords to use? Well, again, it's really tricky, but you can make some pretty good educated guesses by doing a lot of research. And the best place to find the keywords that you need for your resume are in the exact job posting or one ad that you're targeting. So you just go through that ad, look for anything that might be a keyword. These are usually nouns. They very often describe skills and degrees and types of experience and types of software you've worked with and so forth. So go through the job posting and pick out anything you think might be a keyword and try to use it in your resume. And then there are other ways to research too, by just knowing industry words, talking to people inside the industry, inside the company that you're targeting. There are lots of different ways, and some of the other lecture material will guide you in those ways. Next, we come to transferable skills, and these are especially important if you're changing careers or if you don't have a whole lot of experience, or if your experience comes mostly from school or from unpaid experience. But transferable skills are skills that you've developed and polished through any aspect of your life, your professional life, volunteer life, school life, um, professional organizations, pretty much anything that has given you skills that you've developed and honed. So it's very important to